Hey guys, Bart the Nature Guy here. It is a January day, and a couple weeks ago I started conversation in classes around backpacking, and started working more around stoves and making sure that you have water because it's really one of the main things you need. And then last week we talked more about backpacking food and really kind of trying to condense your calorie intake with the least amount of weight and space. And so we really talked about, you do have to carry everything on your back. And how do you do that in regards to the food that you take in, and making sure that we pay attention to the little details about calories and not getting too much sodium, especially with some of those pre-made meals that kind of are the zip pouch meals, and you can overdo sodium pretty quick there. And so just kind of watching what do you want to bring, what do you want to plan, and then you also have to plan what to get into the packs. And so I kind of thought we'd talk a little bit about packs. There's lots of different kinds of packs out there. If you go to a store, you're going to see a variety of packs on the shelf, and there's a lot of different styles to them. And so I wanted to walk through a couple of those, but remembering that a lot of great campsites are not, you don't need the backpack sometimes. So in a lot of the state parks around Minnesota, they have like what they call walk-in sites, and walk-in sites are not like miles back. They're like 200 yards, or 100 yards, and you get this a little bit more secluded setting, which is really nice. And you're not necessarily like, if you remember earlier this fall, I did a lot of classes from campsites, and so it'd be like car, picnic table, fire pit, and then right next to it, within 30 or 40 feet, you'd see the same thing. And so you really were around. It's actually much more of a social event, with people kind of enjoying their own space and time, but oftentimes there's people right around you, and there are some great walk-in sites, but it doesn't take a heavy-duty backpack to do that. I mean, you can do something, even like this is just like, JanSport duffel bag. Like this is almost, you'll hear in backpacks, just real quickly, around size, you'll hear like kind of cubic centimeters or liters, cubic liters. So that's how they kind of like how many centimeters can actually go, or I'm sorry, inches can go into that bag, or liters can go into that bag. So I'm going to use cubic inches because when I was more into buying backpacks and whatnot, that's kind of was the style. Now you hear much more about liters than you do cubic inches. So I'll kind of go through these a little bit. This is almost like, this is 3,000 to 4,000 cubic inches right here. This is plenty big. I mean, especially with, and we'll get into next week around like gear and how do you condense gear using compression sacks and whatnot, and stuff sacks. But I mean, this can just go on. I used to carry back when I used to work directly in schools with kind of a different topic than the camping stuff. I used to bring in like drums and stuff into schools, and I used to load them up in these bags. Because I used to be able to, because I would have to carry them like 4 or 5, and I'd always throw one on my back. And this is, even though it's a little tall on the back, it would fit on me pretty nicely as a backpack, and so I can do that. Something that you'll see different though is that, these straps, which are really handles for your hands to, carry a duffel bag, really don't have any padding. And so there's a little spot right in here, and these straps will find that little spot. And oftentimes, because I was bringing in drums, it was really loud. Like if I brought in 8 to 10 drums, we need to find some way off corner in the middle of some middle school or high school to do that drum work. And so they would walk me way back into like a wrestling room, or a far off like kind of music room where it had some soundproofing, or like the theater when nobody was using it during the day. And I would have to walk with these things a long time. And by the time I got even to those spots, even though it's just a couple hundred yards, just like like the walking in campsites, like I could feel like a little bit of circulation getting cut off as that strap would kind of sit right there. And these aren't padded, so if you were to walk a long ways with this over your shoulder with these kind of thin nylon straps, my guess is you get some pretty good wear and tear on your shoulders right in that little spot between your pec and your shoulder, if you were walking a lot. Also, it would be trying to open your chest up, and so it'd be spreading, like as you're wearing that, the weight's going to be pulling you back this way. These packs have a lot of ways to and different design qualities to them that allows that pack to stay kind of centered, close to your spine, puts a lot more weight on your hips than on your shoulders. You'll even see some of the packs I can create almost space. It's actually just more balanced here. All the weight's on my hips, and it's actually just kind of being held against my body by those shoulder straps. The shoulder straps actually don't have a lot of weight on them. So this bag would definitely not be that way. All the weight would be right here on my shoulders, right on this little spot right here on each side. But if you're walking 100 yards or 200 yards, a 5-minute walk. Like something like this, you don't need a big old backpack. You can put your sleeping bag in here, your clothes, even your food. You know, if you had a couple different sacks inside here to separate those items, this is going to get you to almost any campsite in one of those state parks like that. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. There's also different kinds of backpacks. There's like hiking backpacks here, but then there's also like travel packs. So a travel backpack is a little bit different. It has some different qualities to it. This one I've had for many, many years. I can't even, I don't even know how old this is anymore. But one of the qualities that's a little different is most of these packs over here load from the top. A travel pack it opens more like a suitcase, so it's a nice quality for if you're not doing like a big major hike. One thing that it does a little bit different though is it loads, if you ever seen like a little kid or a high school student like that has like the big loaded backpack full of books for school, and it's kind of almost like tipping them backwards like this. This has that same quality to it. One thing with the travel pack is it will tend to go out this direction from the shoulder strap, so it kind of poops out the back. It doesn't go up. If you notice with these, especially this blue one here, you'll notice that most of the weight, as it builds up, it's actually going to, the backpack's going to start to rise up here, and it's going to put most of that weight closer to your spine versus out the back. This one's going to go out the back, but it creates more of a suitcase style, and it also opens a little different. It opens with a big U shape. So this one has this backpack has a big zipper all the way around here, and it opens so you can see all your clothes at one time. So you can really pack your clothes in here, and you may not be using, because you're not trying to condense a lot of things and use like compression sacks and other sacks kind of inside here to separate items. This is going to be all clothing and whatnot, and so it kind of gives you a nice design quality where you can just show up where you're at and open that up. You saw another pack with it. What's also kind of nice with this travel pack, this one in particular, it has a kind of a day pack attached to it. And so for me, when I was using this the most, I was traveling Alaska, and so this actually kind of became my tackle box or my day pack for the day. So I was able to put some lures in here and go fishing, and also some, you know, obviously a little bit of food and water as well. But it zips directly on here, so when I was hands-free walking to like a cabin location or any sort of hotel or anything like that, or camping situation, and then I was able to take that off, leave that behind, and I had that there. This one also has another pack, which you can kind of see here. This is actually a fanny pack right here, and so I would take that off. I generally, for traveling, I use that for kind of toiletry, so I had easy access if I was you know, getting to a spot I just want to quickly brush my teeth or whatnot, or I would just take that off and it would separate and go into the bathroom. So it was a great little side note. I didn't wear it as a fanny pack. I was more of a backpack person, but some people love fanny packs. Go for it. It's all good. So the other thing that's a little bit of a different quality, design quality, is that it carries is all this stuff. If you're traveling and you're on trains and planes, this is something that can actually get caught in conveyor belts, and these are important pieces, especially like these little plastic clips. If those break, it can really change the functionality of what you have here. So something like that, you want to keep these protected, and so this actually has a zip up cover, and it completely covers all your straps when you travel. So you can actually, and it has a little handle here to operate pretty much like a suitcase. So a travel backpack is great. You'll see people backpacking, you know, like city to city in Europe and going different places. You might, you know, this would be a great pack for going to sightsee, because you have this thing where you can walk if you're going from hotel to hotel in an area, or you want to get to your hotel and then take that day pack off. So if you like to be a little bit more mobile with your stuff versus like dragging around a suitcase, a travel pack like this might be in your future. So lots of brands out there. It just depends on what you want to go to. This is something that you definitely find at a travel store, possibly as much as you would at a backpacking shop. So yeah, and it's been a lot of places. I got stuff like Juneau, Alaska, and Talkeetna, Alaska. So it's about, oh, and also Minnesota, Gooseberry Farms. So lots of different patches. That was something I just kind of chose to do along my travels to remind me of places. So I collect sometimes a lot of times with stickers. If anybody's seen my van, you'll see the stickers on my van. I do that all the time. Patches were back in the day. So it's a fun pack to bring out, because I kind of forget about some of those travels, and they bring back memories by seeing the patches. So that's why I like to do it. Moving on, we have a very famous pack in Minnesota. It's named after a town, and it's called the Duluth Pack. And it's kind of designed around the concept of canoeing. So the Boundary Waters in Minnesota is probably one of the most famous kind of camping location that we have. And people travel by canoe, and the lakes are kind of strung together. And it's a lot of lakes connected with little land trails. They call them portages. And so these portages aren't majorly long. And so they can be a couple miles, but it's not the 10 or 15 miles typically that you see most people do. There are those available, but for the most part, you're going to see people putting on their backpack and then putting a canoe over their head. And so they're resting the canoe, the metal, one of the beams or wood or metal beams on the back of their neck, and they kind of balance the canoe and then walk along. Well, like a backpack like this that has kind of a tall back, and it's designed to keep the weight close to you and over your spine, doesn't necessarily make it easy to get a canoe up over your head and then have to slide. If you have a backpack that's up to here and then your head's here, you only have a small space or window. I'm trying to do this on the camera right there to slide that bar in, and that's not very it's not really that convenient. A Duluth pack. Now this has had a lot of history in my family, so I'm not a user of this very much. So I did some canoe camping. Usually most of my stuff was hiking and car camping a lot of times, and so I didn't do a lot of the canoe camping. I definitely camped via canoe on lakes in more the mid part of the state of Minnesota, but my mom in particular and also my dad have been in the Boundary Waters many times, and this is a classic number 3 Duluth pack that they used for many years. And you can see it's a canvas, so it's more of a hauler. So you're going to be putting, and it's very straightforward. They call it a C design. So it's just like a big old giant bag with a big old lid. So it's just a big old base with a lid, C design. It's got 3 buckles on it. Here's the thing that you can kind of notice on this, the way it sits though, is it sits very low on the back. So when you put that canoe over, it stays low. Also, this one's got really nice leather shoulder straps. It's going to be heavy, so that's, you know, when we're putting on miles like for a hiking trip, you're not going to want the weight of the big leather and the heavy canvas. So but this will really help you with having that canoe on your back to have that protection of those leather straps. So and it's more of a load carrier, so you might have multiple things. Now this isn't waterproof, but if anybody's ever been canoeing like this, even on the sunniest day, as you bring the paddle over, your water's going to drip off into the canoe, so you're going to have a wet bottom in your canoe most of the day. You can wax this type of canvas and put a paraffin style wax on there and heat it up, and I'll probably do that for you in one of your classes, because a lot of the clothes I wear are also waxed clothes, and we might practice on this bag in the near future. So, but one thing you might do, this is almost 5,000 cubic centimeters, so it's a pretty big bag, 4,000 to 5,000 cubic centimeters. So it can carry a lot of gear, and you might actually take something that they call like a wet or dry sack, and that's actually like a waterproof container, and put your clothes in one. You might have your food items and kind of a kitchen in another, and then put those into that Duluth pack, and then they're completely waterproof inside that canvas pack, and then it's designed to actually sit nicely in the bottom of the canoe. It keeps the center of gravity at the canoe very low, so it doesn't get as tippy, so it keeps everything below and it's not catching any sort of wind or anything like that. Also, as you're bringing your paddles over, it's not high up over the canoe where you're going to be bumping those, so it stays nice and low. You might have 2 or 3 of those with you as you portage. People will put one on the back and then reverse sometimes another one and put it on their front, and then put that canoe over their head, and they're able to walk a certain amount of distance to get to that next lake. So it's just a bunch of series of lakes up there in the Boundary Waters with trails kind of running in between them. And so those portages can be done with that Duluth pack. It's a design that's been here in Minnesota. So great pack there is the Duluth pack. I wanted to move on now to more of like what we call the 1 to 3 day pack. And so it's a little bit smaller pack. It's about, I don't know, 2,000 cubic centimeters. It can also kind of double as a day pack. This one has a secondary load hauler that I'll talk about in a second. But you can see in the design, stays up high. You can see the tent down here. Most of these will have a tent, kind of a roll holder at the bottom, and it's basically two straps right here that will hold. Sometimes it will hold a sleeping pad, or it will oftentimes hold the tent. This tent is more of an ultralight tent, 1-person tent. One thing I have to actually do on it is put a little tag on it right here to remind me to bring poles. This one actually doesn't come with poles. You actually use trekking poles. And people will oftentimes want trekking poles in more longer distances, or when your body's not used to taking on this type of weight. It can throw your balance off a little bit. And so when you all of a sudden add, whether it be from a smaller pack of like 20 pounds to more of like a 40-pound pack, adding 40 pounds to your ankle, like what your ankles are supporting as you're walking through rough and jagged trails. If you were to start rolling an ankle, having a trekking pole there to kind of support that and maybe get that foot up a little bit faster without tipping over, but also saving your ankle from maybe a very difficult high ankle sprain. Maybe you keep it minor, or maybe you avoid it at all. So that tent there actually uses trekking poles, and there you can kind of see the straps along the bottom there as this tent is held in place. Sometimes you'll see almost like an egg carton style sleeping mat. It allows people just basically get some distance between the ground and make it a little bit more comfortable of a sleeping situation. Sometimes people will either roll their tent up inside that, or they'll actually just put the tent inside or in a different location and put that sleeping pad there. So it's common to see kind of a roll at the bottom of most backpacks. This is about, for about a 1 to 3 day pack. So you imagine the food that we talked about last week kind of got into about the size of a volleyball for 2 days in regards to kind of dried fruits and nuts, and then also some pre-made bars, and also some of those kind of pre-packaged backpacking meals that you just add water to, and also the stove. So if you have that at the bottom here or somewhere placed in the pack, you can imagine a couple days of clothes, some rain gear, which you always need. These packs need their own rain gear. This one actually has a built-in rain tarp that kind of zips out from the bottom. It has two things that zip out from the bottom, but and it actually will cover up this pack and create a waterproof barrier should the weather turn not so good. The other thing this one has is a load shelf, and so it actually has a secondary piece that will come out and almost create a secondary basket on the outside of fabric. And so it's really nice. I like this pack, and the reason why I picked this pack is because I have 3 boys that if I take them out, I want to be able to, sometimes they get tired if they have a backpack on themselves, and I want to keep it fun and lighthearted and having a good time. And so if they were like, my backpack, I don't like it or whatever, I can just take that backpack and put it right here and take the secondary load piece, float it around, and strap it in and walk with it for a while, at least give them a little break if we're trying to put some miles on. So a couple other tips. You might have your base core here, but on the outside you might have some water, and then also very quick access to first aid. So I think, and we'll get into packing and gear next week, we'll kind of do what we call a bag dump. And so how does this get packed, what works well? But I really, anytime I have a chance to make sure that you have first aid nearby, also, and so it's easy access, because if you trip and fall, you got blood coming down, you want to be able to get to stuff quick, just for cleanliness, and also just ease of getting something mended as quickly as possible. Most of these packs will start to have a pretty heavy hip belt, and this waist belt sits a little higher. I tend to wear my pants low. Some people wear high. You kind of pop it up, and then this is more on like belly button level, but you can see how high it rides. And what happens is, if you can see here, I actually have space here. So most of the load is actually sitting here on my hips, and that works really nice for me to keep all the weight kind of off my shoulders. So I'm not feeling this happen when I'm in there. I'm actually standing straight up and down. You can see the pack is kind of tight up against my spine as possible. And I got these nice hips, and these also have big pockets on them too. So this is where I might keep a map, I might keep a snack bar, or anything emergency level. So if I was in any sort of bear country, I could actually strap bear spray right here, or any sort of whistle or sounding device, maybe an immediate first aid kit, or a survival kit of some sort should I fall and not be able to get to stuff. This is really quick, either for a whistle, any sort of matches, anything like that, for making sure that I have like that last ditch safety thing is right here. For any reason that I'm stuck and I can't get my pack off, at least it's right here where my hands are. So those hip belts usually have some other nylon straps, so you're allowed to kind of put some other things and attach some things here that are of your choice. So that is that. I also bring these big carabiners. They're a little bit weight and a little bit bulky. I don't mind a little extra sound, especially if I'm bear country. I don't mind banging something kind of banging around and making some unnatural sound out there. That's kind of nice. I use this because it's just really easy to walk up and clip something to a tree and hang this bag up should the weather be bad. I use these clips all the time, and I've just gotten kind of used to them, and now I just kind of put, when I find them in a hardware store or whatever, I'll pick them up if I find them on like some weird deal, and they're like $1 kind of thing. They're not load bearing, so it's nothing for climbing or putting your body weight on, but for hanging up a bag, it's super easy. Or also if I have a, again, if I have a child with me or whatnot, I can easily just clip a secondary backpack to this one, and it just easily hangs on. I'm not trying to tie anything. It's really quick. It's really easy. And like I could have like photography equipment in one bag, and I want to bring that with. And I know I'm going to be taking a little bit of a hike. And in here I might have more like chairs or camouflage material to kind of set up for a wildlife shot. I've definitely brought, you know, like more like with little tripod chairs, and I have, usually I'm a coffee drinker, so I'm always bringing some big thermos out because it's just what I do. And then you have water, and so and then I would have my, you know, my camera bag, and this is something that could like easily clip my camera bag, and I don't have to totally kind of put this thing all together in a totally different way. So that's one bag. That's kind of a 1 to 3 day bag. We're moving on. Now this actually doesn't even have a frame. So you see this. This is the straps, the length of these straps is all kind of fixed. It's a big foam back. It's pretty firm. It's got a lot of space for air here. It also has across, what is that? This piece, and you'll see with this next one, that's an important piece. That little clip right there, and a lot of people have them on their backpacks. They don't really use them that much, but when you're backpacking, what that does is instead of spreading your shoulders out, it allows the bag and this fabric to take a lot of that pressure in. And for me, I find it very much more comfortable to get it closer to my neck versus out on my shoulders. The closer it is to my neck, the better. And it puts the pressure here versus out in that kind of chicken wing joint area out here. And so I find it very, very helpful. I put my thumbs in there and actually I walk a lot as I put on this next pack for you. I'll show you. Now this is closer to 4,000 cubic centimeters, more of a 3+ day pack. And so I've spent hours walking like this. And I kind of put my thumbs in here, and I just kind of, when I'm often walking with my hands together like this, right up by my chest. It makes me narrow through tight passages. And it also just takes that pressure again, brings that pressure here on the inside. So super nice. And this is a top loader. One thing I've done before, a lot of times backpacks have these mesh pockets on the outside for water bottles, but they can drop out. So a lot of these older styles, this is a pretty old pack, and the older styles, they had lots of straps. You'll see a kind of a new, I don't want to say it's a new school, it's just there's a design that's a much more sleek, and there's not a lot of pockets and a lot of the stuff hanging off on the outside. It's just a pack design choice. This one has a lot of these straps because of just kind of the time it was built. But I would always take this loop, and if I have a water bottle holder right here, I would take this, especially like those analogies that have the twist off and a little kind of, you know, hook to kind of keep the lid attached. I would always take this and loop that through, because you do not want to find a water bottle if, you know, 2 miles ago, you know, 2 miles back there it fell out of your pack, and you got to go 2 miles that way and 2 miles again. That's now 4 miles. And if that ever happens, I really just suggest don't drop your pack to try to make a sprint back, because if something happens and you've now left your gear, stay with your gear. So that's just one thing in regards to dropping packs and running after water. So it's one on each side, but I would definitely make sure to secure your water somehow. If you have external kind of loose mesh pockets like that, make sure you secure your stuff. This is a top loader. So it has like a top bag. There's a lot of great gear. This is where I put that first aid kit. I would put my map so I can just set this down, and then it's right here for me. So first aid, map, headlights, maybe like a rain gear for the actual pack might be up here. I might have my rain gear also right at the very top of this pack. And something that's different with this pack than that travel pack is it's always a top load. So, and instead of zippers, most of these use clips. So it top loads, so you can see how high up this gets. And so you can pack almost everything, and there's a lot of different ways to pack this. And you know, where do you put the stove, and where do you put the food, where do you put your clothes, and where do you put your sleeping bag? And we'll go through that in the next probably 2 weeks from now. So next week I think is actually, we're going to try and get on a link and show you a little bit of ice fishing, which will be kind of fun. So so this pack has a lot of these straps are all about compression. So this one actually loops over, and then it just tightens down. And all it is about cinching everything tighter and tighter and tighter, making sure that you're kind of minimizing your space out there. and maximizing the amount you can bring. So, and it has basically a top load. Some of these new packs, this will actually become some sort of day pack or fanny pack. This one is not that design, but you see people kind of getting creative with what they want and what they want to bring. So just like that travel pack had that zip off backpack I showed you, that's kind of what some of these top lids have become, and that's kind of cool. They are much more adjustable because they carry more weight. This is, that first pack, kind of the camouflage pack, was more of a 20-pound pack. This is more of a 40-pound pack. And that's going to be more weight on your body, and you're going to want to make sure it sits better on you. And so it actually can be fitted specifically for your body type. Sometimes there's men's packs and women's packs depending on the branding. And if you can just see here, real quick, there's adjustments. You can see this plastic right in here. And see that line right there? And there's lines all the way down. So you can adjust it for your body, where your hip is and where your shoulders are. And you can go, you get your pack fitted. And the cost on these is hugely varied. So with online resources right now, you can find stuff brand new for really cheap on certain sites. You can also go to secondhand shops and find, people are gearheads that are campers, and sometimes they're dumping off their gear all the time because they want the latest and greatest, just like tech people dump off, a perfectly good iPhone 11 to get an iPhone 12 because it's just the newest, latest, and greatest, and that's how they are. People are like that with golf clubs, and they can also be like that with camping equipment. So you can go into a Value Village, a Goodwill store, secondhand thrift shop, or garage sale and find really good stuff. So keep your eyes peeled. I'd say play the long game with camping. Know what you want, know some of the brands you really like and some of the qualities you want in a pack, and then start playing the long game of finding that new. You can usually find it at a pretty good cost. It's not going to be that full retail price if that's a concern for you. So, and this is, again, about a 4,000 cubic inch pack. It's, again, 3+ days. The last pack I wanted to go over is the next step up, and it kind of joins that Duluth pack in regards to size. It's a big haul carrier, and this is an external frame pack. And I like this pack for a couple different reasons. I got it for having kids and bringing extra gear in, but this is an external, so you can see what I mean by external. I'm going to peel this off now. Is that all the inner workings that holds that pack up are actually aluminum tubing, and so it's a very different design that way. But on the front, it's all fully adjustable backpack straps. You have the same hip belts that you do. It's got pockets similar to those other ones, so they've definitely found in as far as like a overall in the industry, that these pockets are very valuable. You find them on most packs nowadays. What's a little different with this one, it's got some kind of side haulers, but what this allows is a secondary cage to go around, just like that other camo one. It's a load hauler, and this is a great one to bring because if you can see these clips right, let's see if I can do this right for you. So you can see these clips right here, those little bolts pull out, and you can actually attach this big old bag right here to this backpack, and then when you get to your site, you can peel it off. So it's a perfect winter camping backpack as well, because then you can go and find your wood, especially when it's cold out and you're in need of fuel for fire. This has a foldable load hauler that comes out, and you can load up and strap on all these straps will adjust different, and you can put on, whether it be one big log that you're trying to bring into camp, so you can just work on it with a hatchet or saw once you're at camp, or you can find a bunch of different wood, and depending on what kind of straps you need, they're all right there for you. So it's a great design of a backpack, and it's an external frame pack. Again, this is going to be high over your head, so this has an ability to get lowered a little bit, but again, if you're in a canoe situation, you're going to still struggle if this thing's up over behind your head right here. Yeah, it's going to be hard to get a canoe into that little slot right there. So that's where that Duluth pack kind of excels for that kind of camping. But for other types of camping, this is going to be your best choice. Lots of great options out there for backpacks. Lots of different needs and lots of different ways that you want to do it, and the amount of time that you feel free to get out there in. And if you have that free time, that's great. And you'll want to have the right pack for the right job if possible. So I have just years of collecting stuff, and so but nothing in here has been overly expensive. So some of those packs and those ultralight through hikers will definitely get into some really high-end thin material, and also people that are way up in the mountains that are really trying to maximize the amount of weight they really want to minimize the amount of weight to maximize their output, and those packs can get much into the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. None of these packs are in that category. These are all mid-level to low-level packs. But for the amount that I do right now, it is absolutely sufficient. And there's lots of great reviews out there on all the different backpacks. So different types of backpacks this week with the Nature Guy. Take care. We'll see you all next week. And next week we are going to get into some ice fishing. So one of the staff at the schools that I work in, her son is a professional hard water fisher, and we're going to get out there and show you some of the basics, and also leave you with a good spot to go to as well. So take care, everybody. We'll talk to you all there. Bye-bye.